introduce this.
Okay. My name is Laura. I'm from Beijing with China Agriculture University. Rob, I think you made a very interesting presentation, and thank you. There's just a question, I'm not sure. I like your wording when you talk about the usefulness of this comprehensive evaluation, but I'm not quite sure I understand it. Could you clarify that? That's my first question, then I have a second question. You talk about insufficiently incorporating international harmonization and architecture questions. I'm not sure I understand that. And also, regarding this comprehensive evaluation, I'm curious to know your methodology. I'm curious to know who the evaluators are. Whether, like, are they all international evaluators? Do they know about the local culture? In your evaluation, have you involved the partners of these international organizations? So I'm curious to know about that. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, Derek went into the issue of the usefulness for the specific evaluations. That maybe you can say a little bit more about that. But he already mentioned how they were used in the specific situations that he addressed, and this was similar elsewhere. But you want to go into this, Derek?
Maybe we take a little more.
Yeah, okay, let's do something first.
Thank you. Osvaldo Feinstein. Thank you. I think that perhaps one can consider that we had a set of what may be called first generation of comprehensive evaluations, and I would suggest to include also one which I think can also be considered a comprehensive evaluation, the one on the comprehensive development evaluation framework, because it's doubly comprehensive, but because of the way in which the issue of country ownership was handled there, which I think it was an interesting source of reflections for the future. And second, in terms of harmonization of practices, in the evaluation cooperation group, there have been good practice standards developed for different types of evaluations, and I think that now, after this first generation of comprehensive evaluations, the time may be right for good practice standards for comprehensive evaluations. Following up on that work.
Berg,
Berg Parent, yeah. Is this working? Yeah, Berg Parent, I'm an independent consultant. I've been involved in either as a team member or quality assurance advisor in at least a couple of these comprehensive evaluations, and I'm familiar with a number of others of these. And just a couple of reflections. First, from what I've seen, these are often done for very, very different purposes, commissioned almost by different bodies. The GF is very different from others which are commissioned by the governing body, perhaps because they've had a concern about some issues. And I think the notion of perhaps developing some good practices to guide these things can be useful. I am a bit concerned, though, if this gets a bit too rigid in terms of this is what these must do, because for something such as a GF, where you're doing something on an ongoing basis, it's very different where, like UNESCO, where the governing body had some real concerns about what is the organization all about. It should take a different direction. I mean, you talked, and I agree in principle that the evaluation unit should be more closely involved in these things. Some cases they were specifically excluded because for good or often not so good reasons, whoever, be it donors, governing bodies, or whatever who commissioned these things had some concerns about the evaluation department itself, or these may have not been legitimate, but I think there's a danger if we try to be too specific.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we need to go back to the panel. Could you especially react to the issue of, for example, the composition of the teams and of the kind of guidance in your view, come out of this? And we'll come back to the harmonization question later.
Thank you, Rob. Composition of teams. I'm not sure I've got anything very innovative to say there. I would say that typically the team would be composed of a mixture of people with some subject matter technical skills, so obviously HIV very different from the work of IFAD, and some core evaluators, usually led from an evaluation perspective rather than the technical side. But I think the critical point is how you support the work when you get to country level, and the way in which you can work with national consultants there to do that. I think this is a challenge consulting teams find all the time, and I don't think there's an easy solution to finding good national teams, but it's a very important part of the work. With the IFAD evaluation, I think from memory we had the resources to make a preliminary country visit which set up the nature of the data collection that was required and did some work with national consultants and so on. One of the problems is that if you base the work around a large sample of, let's say, 12 countries, and you need to develop some sort of comparable rating system in order to summarize relative performance, then as with all rating systems, you've got the difficulty of benchmarking standards so that how you rate in Benin or Mali is similar to how you rate in India or Indonesia. So I think that was an issue there. What was the second one?
Guidance.
Oh, the guidance. Yes, because speaking as a consultant, I would say it's the commissioners that need all the guidance, but then that's a personal point of view. Yeah. What I would think there that the issue over basic governance and design characteristics are where there is enormous scope for learning lessons across the various studies that are there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. This was a very interesting first start of the discussion, but we're actually running out of time already. So what I actually propose to do now is, these issues are coming back, harmonization and alignment and so on, is to go through the presentations and then have a general discussion. So this was a very good start-up, but I would actually like to turn to Bob Picciotto now.